Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished playing Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. Now, right now, I see my units scrolling by, and how some of them I didn't even touch. I managed to make it through, lost only 2 units, one of which I'm sad over, the other one I was, The one I was on was Shinon, the one that I was really sad that died was Jill, but I wasn't going to reset, I got her, so I got to replace her. My opinion of this game, I'm going to give this a full review and just let the thing run while I just rant. So if you're not interested in a rant about Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, just ignore this video. Very interesting story. It starts out very simply with the stereotypical, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're a humble mercenary troop, trained by one of the best, and very skilled warrior in and of himself, Grail. Grail happens to be Ike's father. So, Ike being our lord for the game is, I have to admit, at the beginning of the game I was unsure. I'm like, well, he's sort of a balance between a mercenary and a myrmidon, at least mine was, in the fact that he didn't necessarily have the best defense, but he packed a punch and was pretty good at dodging. So I was like, okay, this Ike's pretty cool. It wasn't until I classed him up, which happens plot-wise. I get to see my rankings of my most used people. Mia is 4th. Zahark was 3rd, and trust me, he was epic. No doubt. 2nd was Titania, with 76 wins. Despite the fact she was only level 11. 1st place was Ike. Level 20. He was level 20 before he classed up. I'm not even kidding. I'm not going to pull any punches. The storyline, right here is where the spoilers start, okay? As you go through and you go through some of the chapters, some of the units in particular, sorry, I want to do that. Some of the units in particular, I wasn't sure of their usefulness at first. I mean, Rolf and Mist, I never ended up using, but I've heard from somebody else that they're very, very good. Boyd, at first, was sort of iffy, as if he was any use at all. By the end of it, I liked him. I mean, I didn't use him too often by the end, but that's because I didn't really need axe wielders at the end. Once I had Zahark, okay, this is the thing, I'm gonna start spoiling this right now. Zahark is one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite Myrmidons of all time, but that's because you take the Fire Emblem 4 Thracia 776 skills, add some of the more fair style of gameplay that you get out of the GBA games. Sorry, preventing that from doing the thing. Anyway, get more of the fair balance of map stats and units, and Zahark suddenly becomes a danger to everyone around him, because he already had high skill and the ability to crit and pretty high overall power. He had high strength, high skill, and high luck, which is all I ever require of him, and speed. But speed, as you would find out, as you are going to find out right now, was not necessarily the issue. He comes with Adept, which means every once in a while he'll strike twice. He also comes with a Killing Edge that he uses very well. Now, I saved that Killing Edge for later, and boy howdy, yes, I said boy howdy. I'm going to be adjusting this again because I was sitting on my knees. I was very glad with the setup I had with Zahark at the end, because I gave him Vantage. Now, mix Vantage with things like Adept, where you can strike twice, and a Killing Edge, which raises his, once he's a Swordmaster, raises his chance of critting into the 30s and 40s. Not to mention the Vague Kadi, once he got to S rank, I thought that was going to make him a danger to everything around him, a 59% chance to crit. Now, sadly, whenever he used the Vague Kadi, about 75% of the time he would not crit, which, needless to say, got on my nerves. But he was so epic and unkillable. I mean, out of all the units I could have lost, the only time I lost Zahark was when the Black Knight up and offed him in a chapter we were not supposed to fight the Black Knight on. Um, Overall, though, back onto Ike. Ike, once he became a lord and I started using him more often, he even gave him a fully. I maxed out the hit, crit, and power on a steel sword and lowered the weight as much as I could, and called it the Equalizer, making it a purple blade. Almost every time he would use that on a boss, he would aether them immediately, or crit them, or something like that, because I saved an occult scroll, so the instant he classed up, he had aether. Um, so my initial impression of this game, though difficult, it starts off harder than the GBA games, and only if you do what my mistake in the GBA games used to be, which was focusing only on a single character. That's the only time that this game starts getting easy, is because once you start focusing on like 2 or 3 characters, you can start feeding bonus experience to them, giving them all the best stuff, forging weapons just for them, and it makes the entire game a whole lot easier, but that does not mean the game is easy on the whole. The bonus experiences I view almost like battle masteries on Super Robot Tyson. I even looked up a guide to see what it took to get the bonus experience on there, and fed it to people who I thought could use it. Now, one of the characters I'm sad didn't appear in my top 5 rankings is Volk. That's the thing about this game, is unlike what I was used to, where thieves actually class up into assassins and do a really dang good job, Volk was the only assassin in the game, and even then it was a plot-based level up, a plot-based class up, as opposed to what you'd expect with other units. It's another neat thing about this, is in Path of Radiance, there's only, I want to say 3 or 4 Master Seals, which will allow you from level 10 or above to class up. Everybody else has to go to level 21, and once they hit level 21, they class up. Now, with certain characters, this would be a hassle for me, like healers. In fact, on my second playthrough, I am probably going to use one of those on Riss or Mist or somebody like that. Might even use it on Rolf. Still. But that was a very interesting concept to me. It actually... Bonus experience I almost felt was necessary at some points just to get somebody to class up. I mean, my weapon masteries were not as good as they could have been, but had I been focusing... because for most of the game I was focusing on about 7 or 8 people and making a really solid party, but at the end of the game, when Ike was level 20 and I had the Ragnell, I just said, yeah, forget it. I'll just feed bonus experience to Leth and move on. That's right. Leth and Ike were my 2 favorite people to use. The reason why is I wanted to use a Laguz character. And Leth instantly transformed at the beginning of the map. She was instantly usable. So once I gave the Laguz gem from Mordecai to her, should she run out and I need her, she could just use the Laguz gem and class up that way. Not class up, transform. Still. Yeah, it's just to keep it from going back to the thing. I have to say that Stefan is not as good as people make him out to be in Path of Radiance. I've seen him in Radiant Dawn, and I've heard that he's a billion times better in that one. But as far as Swordmasters go in this game, in fact, I'm going to go by second-tier classes and who I would personally pick as the best of each. I definitely think Zahark or Mia has the edge, because Lucia, though good, lacks something. I don't know. It's just she's an okay Swordmaster. Mia, she doesn't crit often, but she comes with Vantage, so if you get an Adept Scroll, you can just hand it to her and have the same effect of what I did with Zahark. Now, why I went with Zahark is, I know his health growth was way higher, because for me he got up to like 41 health as opposed to Mia, who was only at 36 forever. He also maxed out his speed, which made him very dangerous on the battlefield. He could always double. Now, pair that up with Vantage and something that gives him a high amount of crit, and suddenly you have a very dangerous force on the battlefield. I personally adore Zahark for that reason. Is once you give him Vantage, there is nothing that will... At one point, this is how I got him classed up. There was this chapter where he was surrounded by Lagoos. Oh. So I sent him in there with a Lagoos Slayer and a few steel swords. Okay? This is literally well, and a Killing Edge. I forgot that, but not overly important, but sort of important. This is literally how it went down. Lagoos attacks. He gets Vantage. He hits Lagoos Slayer. Kills them. Then, when his Lagoos Slayer broke, he went over to his Killing Edge. Wanna know how that went? Vantage, critical, dead. Vantage, hit. Adept, critical, dead. For the longest time, he couldn't be touched. Even later on in the game, I would just send him out there on his own because he had Vantage and Adept, and you would own everything. Now, I could sit and sing his praises all day, but I promised you what I would. So, Zahark, best of the Sword Masters in my opinion. Stefan can't hold a torch to him in my book. Though Stefan is very useful. He comes with an S rank in swords, meaning he can use his Vague Kadi right off the bat. Out of the Beast Lagoos, I never used Ranulf, so I can't choose him over Leth, except for personal reasons of having used her and not him. Mordecai, never used him, so I stuck with Morium and his Demi-Band, which later on I gave to Ina, who's a dragon Lagoos that you can get in your party if you fail to kill the Black Knight in a specific chapter. I'm not going to tell you that, though, not unless it's requested, and then I'll tell it in the comments. Best fighter. Well, actually, you only get one warrior in this game, which is another thing that got me. Boyd is the only fighter you get in this game, to my knowledge, and the only warrior, as far as I can remember. So I thought that was strange, but I sort of liked it. Never used Ranulf, so I can't say he's a better archer than Shinon, but I'm sure he is because you can sort of manually level him up. Healers. I don't tend to use them on the whole, but if I had to pick one, I'd say Riss. I know Mist becomes a Valkyrie, a mounted unit that can wield swords, but if you use Riss, you can get the light magic as well, and that will be useful later on. Now as to mages. You only get 2 in this game. One of them starts out as a mage. His name is... no, sorry, you get 3, but one of them I can't speak for, and that's Tormod, because I never used him. I was planning on doing it on a second playthrough. You get Sorin and Khalil. I tried using both of them, but I found that Sorin made my replacement healer thing very easy. I didn't even have to blink because his magic growth is so huge that you could hand him a normal heal staff and he'll heal about 30-something health. So I would personally suggest him, but that's based on the stat growths my Sorin had. You may change depending on how you go. As for Shinon, I was going to use him, but I'm just not good with archers for the very reason that they can't really hold out on their own. They need to have somebody else with them. Now, in the GBA games, I would always pair them up with a general, but because Gautry was, I didn't get Gautry until a bit after Shinon. Yeah, that sounds about right. No, it would have to have been before. Still, I didn't get Shinon until much later on, and I did use him for a while. He's very good. He dodges very easily. He has massive stat growths, but that's because you lose him at the beginning part of the game. Same thing with Gautry. Honestly, when it comes to knights and generals, I would definitely suggest Gautry over Torneo. Despite the fact that Torneo comes at level 15 as a general, Gautry has more time to grow, and you can sort of toy with him and channel his skills better. Now, on to soldiers. I never got Devdin, as in I was unable to recruit him. It's not for lack of knowledge of how, it was more of a lack of willpower of wanting to get him. So if anybody has, feel free to tell me. But, I used Nephany, and she did a wonderful job. I'm not